Hi guys, welcome back to another episode discussing the Resilient podcast. This one's a very special episode. We've got a special guest. We've got Liam VSL joining us for a chat about Death Guard. Obviously, he won the London Grand Tournament with Chaos Space Marines and took Death Guard to... I'm not sure what the name of it was again, Liam. I'll have to sort of circle back on that. They're basically the Elite Winners of Winners tournament that GW ran, and Liam lost only to Quinton, who also we'd had on a previous episode as well from Art of War. So basically this episode is going to focus on Liam, who's from Poland, plays national Warhammer for Poland's team at WTC.
Belgium.
He's Belgium, dude.
Oh, Belgium.
It was in Poland.
It was already a disaster. There we go. We'll either edit that bit out, or we'll leave it in there for the comedy.
That moment of shame is staying in.
That's staying in. Yeah.
There we go. So Willie doesn't know about geography. Then, as you heard the voices there, we've got Aiden, and we've also got Dave, of course, and Liam. So I don't know, Dave and Aiden, anything you want to add to the intro before we get going? Apart from correcting my geography, of course.
No, I'm interested to get straight into it, mate.
Yeah, and I just want to say, obviously, a big thank Liam from all of us for coming on and for all of the members. And also, it's great timing, given also that we've kind of just crossed the 4K mark with the channel dedicated to Death Guard. So perfect to have you on as the first great guest.
Yeah, very special guest.
Thank you to having me in.
Oh, so I think the first thing to do, Liam, is perhaps... obviously at this point, I think everyone in the Death Guard community knows about the list you've been running with the Brigands and the Plague Burst Callers. Maybe just do a quick recap on what made you choose Death Guard, and then maybe how your list has changed since the balanced data slate, or are you still running something very similar?
So let's start with the beginning. So after LG, so basically I'm a captain of Team Belgium for WTC, so I'm mainly playing team, even though generally the period before Christmas it's mainly singles. So I start at the LGT, I play CSM, and then for my team I had to look my faction. I had to look after all the Chaos faction, and Death Guard is one of the Chaos factions. So after the data slate in September, Death Guard get a little bit of love, so I decided to why not look at them a bit, and I did write some lists, make a lot of testing game, and I was it's actually really, really strong. And then back in the day they were Autrichian guys that play Death Guard, and I start with his list, and then under adding stuff, putting stuff I like out and stuff like that. And I really like Rhino generally in every faction I play, so Death Guard was really good with Rhino. So I start with the classic 30 Plague Marine and Rhino, and then my first list I think had Terminator, 30 Plague Marine, and then 3 Plague Burst. Then I was testing other lists with 3 Rhino, Terminator, and 3 Brigands. And then I was finding the Terminator but the Brigand and the Plague Burst were so good, so I went both, and then I managed to fit both in it, which led to my world list in Atlanta.
The list, as it became known, the VSL list, the Brigand PBC 30 Plague Marine Special.
Yeah. So that list was really, really strong, I felt at the time. It was not the stronger list in the game, but it was a note, I would always take that in a team environment. And at World, I did quite alright. I went 7-1. So
nice.
It lost to Quinton, but had to play a lot of other game. And even to Quinton, it was a close loss, which in team is really interesting. Because and so that was the list. I lead to that list, but then the dataset from January comes out, and that list took quite a bit of points. Plague Marine went up, Nurgling went up, Plague Burst went up. Everything in the list basically went up.
So your fault.
Yeah, your fault.
I don't know, but
I think I did the math on it, and I think it went up 145 points if I remember correctly. That list that you've been running. What does your list look like at the moment, Liam? Are you still continuing with something that's kind of similar? Did you make a small change, or have you completely gone back to the drawing board?
So, for a bit of context, just before the dataset, Chaos Knight was something in Steam, so I was working on Mono Death Guard, trying to play without the Knight. So going with more Predator, like playing culty stuff instead of Nurgling, and like trying like Typhus and stuff, and then the point on all of those stuff went down actually, like the Typhus went quite a bit down, but the Predator stayed the same, but they were really good. And then in the dataset another unit went down quite a bit, which was the Plague Drone. And so I work on that. So what I knew that would stay was the 30 Plague Marine in Rhino, like that's not leaving, even if they take like I think in the 60 points, 2-point Plague Marines, I still take that. Like the grenade nerf is actually not really relevant because you mostly take that dude for the lethal 5+.
For the lethals, yeah.
If most of the time the grenade is a nice addition, but you never really do 4 grenades in the same place anyway.
It was funny when it happened, but it's not something you like plan on happening. It's just if it came up, you were like, cool, I get to kill Angron for free.
Exactly. But so I decided, so all of that stay, the 3 rhinos stay, and then basically I had to choose between the Plague Burst and the Brigand. That was a bit my idea, because like I was there, if I run both, I lost a lot of stuff. So I could technically still run 2 Brigand, 3 PBC. That would still work. But I decided that I quite like the other stuff, like the drone that went down. I wanted to test them. Typhus is kind of okay in the meta and give you like the deep strike ability that you lose by not bringing like the Nurgling and stuff. So in the end, my list ended up with the 30 Plague Marine in Rhino with the 5 characters, same loadout as before, so 2 10-men, 2 5-men, the Biologus plus full Blightspawn in the 10-men, and 1 Biologus in 1 5-man, to have like a Rhino where you can do 2 grenades at the same place. And then I add the trip. I kept the PBC, because actually indirect is quite important to be able to like reach the opponent backfield, because I add like you will see in the rest of the list, but like being able to kill like the 10-man cultists in the backline or something like that, to then like drop something in the backline, or force your opponent to go back, screen the backline. You're there, okay, fine. So I kept the PBC. I run 2 with. I decide, so because I lost the Brigand, I decided to run 2 with Entropy, 1 with Flamer. Because at the World I was playing with Entropy, but actually I find that Flamer were better overall. But I need the Entropy to maybe sometime like pop off a Rhino or something like that. So I decided to run 1 Flamer, 2 Entropy. The idea of the Flamer is that sometime against some matchup, one of the PBC is gonna stay in the backline, and like I don't want to have like some random shit coming and annoy me. So
exactly,
so I play the Flamer, and the Flamer is actually really good in some matchup right now, like Custodes. Those Flamer are like amazing. So even into Orc,
wounds on 2s on your invuln, have fun.
So I decide to run those one, and then I run 2 drone. The drone are actually one of the best unit of the list, I find out, because they really allow you to spread the contagion kind of fast, and to like when you can combine like the stratagem to ignore cover and give like AV to all the Plague Bursts, you can like, you know, fly a Plague Drone, give -1 save, remove cover, kill something that like your opponent is not really expected to kill, because generally Plague Bursts only do cheap damage to like chaff and stuff. But actually when you do those strats, you can really kill like a tank with Plague Burst, which is like, because you're gonna make like them 7-5. So you're there, you have like I don't know, a Fortune or something that lost someone from dark packing, and poof, you're finishing with indirect, which is really cool.
Nice.
So just a quick question on bloat drones, because a lot of discussion on sort of weapons for bloat drones. What do you personally like to run your bloat drones with, and do you reckon that that's the best option, or do you reckon that all have uses?
I think the Flamer are the best option overall. So I'm running the Flamer because first, the profile of that weapon is just amazing. Like anti-infantry 2+, AP1 ignore cover. When you combine that with the -1 save, mean that you kill the infantry like nothing. And then you still have like like funnily enough, like the probe is still okay-ish in melee. You're sometimes gonna kill like a dude or something like that. So like it's fine. I don't really like the heavy weapon because like my drone are moving forward.
Yeah.
They're gonna like, so I'm gonna flame anyway, and I rather like threat overwatch and stuff like that, even though I'm not really overwatching all the time, but still. And then the melee is a bit like, I don't really want to rely on melee because like Death Guard actually doesn't charge often, I find out, because like most of like generally in my game, well, I'm maybe talking a little not the answer, but like most in my game, like people with recon that Plague Marine do well in melee, so they will always stay 20 inches. So I will always like have to drive the Rhino and disembark to shoot people, and then like having more activation in shooting allow me to do my stuff better to make sure like I kill stuff. So I would always run the Flamer, I think.
That makes sense. I mean, you mentioned there about the Plague Marines and not charging. I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast about how the Plague Marines are often more of an anvil rather than a hammer, because you sort of part them in cover on an objective, and with the fight first, you know, it's up to people to come and charge you because you're going to hold that point otherwise, and unless they've got some indirect, you know, sometimes they've got to sort of come and engage you. But I'm saying, I know you have 2 10-man Plague Marine bricks, and obviously the characters to have fight first in 2 places. Do you find that's a choice because obviously the WTC terrain and the team format, or you know, is that something you'd also take into singles? Because on this podcast we've talked a few times about how, because I know obviously you're familiar with UKTC as well, having won London. Obviously on that format there isn't place to hide sort of 2 10-man squads, so that the second fight first sometimes doesn't get used, just get shot off the board, because Plague means as much as their offense is a defense, isn't it? They swing first, they kill what was going to kill them, and they live. I mean, what are your sort of your takes on that? Would you sort of ever drop the second Foul Blight spawn, or is he sort of like a fixture in the list?
So the Full Blight spawn obviously give fight first, but secondly has like a really good flamer, and like it allow me to kill stuff in shooting really efficiently. Like I really see the Plague Marine as a shooting unit, not a melee army. The melee is something you add around. So I like those 10-man break because I can really drive that Rhino, disembark, grenade, and then shoot with everything in contagion range with like the extra IP or stuff like that. So I think the whole 10-man work quite well for that, and adding the Flamer is cool. But obviously against shooting army, it's like sometimes a bit iffy. Like I never played Death Guard on UKTC yet, so I'm not really sure of what list I would bring. But I would obviously stay with what I'm bringing now. But like I could see why you would only run 1 10-man. But I mean,
it's an interesting. Sorry, what you got? I didn't mean to cut you off there, Liam. What you gonna say? Sorry.
So also, like most of the time, I don't stage with my Plague Marine. My Plague Marine stay in Rhino really long, for a long time, until I get to hit something. So I really push with my vehicle first. So that doesn't work that well against like really hard shooting, but against like more like average army, like 50-50 or more melee focus, that work okay. So you push with the vehicle to reach with the Plague Marine after they kill the vehicle. But so I would like not do like put 10 Plague Marine behind a ruin in the middle, because Plague Marine don't fight well enough to prevent guys from charging you. For example, against like Orc or Custodes, that doesn't really work, because like a Orc will just charge you and fight on death and kill you, or like a Custodes will charge you, put -1 to hit kata, have -1 damage, and then we'll lose 2 dude, and then like the forest will still kill the whole unit. So like more often than not, the fight first is just like, it's just an addition to like, if I can overwatch you and you charge me, you're gonna be dead. But the fight first alone is not enough, I find out.
Oh, okay.
So it's go on, well.
No, go on. I was just going to say, so it's a tool rather than something that you'd use as it's just like it's good to have as part of like the options, but it's not what they're there for as their primary function.
I think it's quite interesting that a lot of people seem to think that Plague Marines are like, oh, just take all the melee weapons because they're a melee powerhouse. And I tend to agree with you. I feel like my Plague Marines get a lot more done when they're shooting like rapid fire plasma guns. You know, they're doing a grenade, they're firing some plasma guns. I've killed a lot more units with the actual shooting. And the actual melee sometimes, just because it like hits on falls with the heavies, if there's a -1, it becomes really unreliable. And I've had moments where I've charged in and you think, oh, this unit's going to kill whatever it touches. You just don't roll that many 5-ups. And then you're kind of like, actually, this unit's not as scary as I thought in melee. But the shooting profiles are really good. So what I'd ask you then is your 10-man squad that you have and your 5-man squads, what are your go-to ranged weapons on the squad? Because I'm more interested in like the loadouts that you take on them, on both the 5-man and the 10-man, if that's all right.
On a 10-man, I'm gonna run obviously plasma heavy weapon on the Surge, then 2 heavy flamer, so the strength 5 and infantry 2+, 2 melta, 1 plague launcher, and then 4 heavy weapon. So that's my loadout.
Nice.
For the 5-man, it's just 1 plasma heavy weapon, 1 melta, 1 flamer, and 2 heavy weapon. So I don't run the plasma that much, I run the melta.
Okay.
So I'm curious about the melter actually, Liam. Because when I found the melter, I mean, I assume that with the melter you're sort of hoping for that lucky 5 to hit when you don't have to worry about the wound roll. Because I found with the melter, it wasn't as reliable, and you don't really roll that 5s, and then you might, you know, because it's only one shot, you roll a 1 and a 2 to hit more often than you hope for, or maybe roll a 1 or a 2 to wound. You know, sometimes even a 3 to wound or a 4 to wound, depending on what you're shooting into. Yeah. Shooting with toughness 10. What's the thinking behind the melter? Because obviously you must have experienced this more than anyone running them quite regularly.
So the idea is that the list doesn't run that many anti-vehicle, and like more often than not, the melta will wound quite well because with the -1 toughness against toughness 9, which are mainly the vehicle I want to kill, because most of the transport are toughness 9, and it's really those one I want to kill. Like the T10, I miss. It's like the tank is alive, that's okay, but when the transport is alive, I don't kill the unit inside, which is annoying. So like the melta help for that, and with the extra save, he will, if there is no involved, he will not have a save even though cover, stuff like that. So it's really like for the efficiency to, more often than not, when I'm within 6, 1 melta is gonna go out and like do D6+2, and it helps really well to kill Rhino and stuff. And if he doesn't work, but it's really for that profile of a transport that I'm there. Also into like heavy infantry, like, you know, like Meganobs, Gravis armor, or any like a no involved unit, even like Chosen, you start with the melta gun, like you basically auto kill an extra dude, or maybe 2 if you're all lucky. So like I would always run the melta in my opinion.
Yeah, makes good sense. I mean, cool. I never really thought of the melter the way you've described it, because it sounds using more like a scalpel. You know, it's a very precision weapon for you. It's got a specific role. You know, transports are important to popping. That allows you to sort of make it. That increases your odds dramatically. Whereas I'd always in my head seen the melter as more like it's there. So if you do come up against, say, a brigand or a war dog, that you've got a shot into it. Whereas actually isn't what it's there for at all.
No, yeah, it doesn't. Like most of the time, like the problem of transport is that it locks your activation. So you really want to be able to, with the first activation, like I'm gonna waste a whole 10-man shooting the transport. I really want to make sure that Rhino is dead and not that he's gonna survive on like 2 wounds. If I don't kill a brigand, honestly, it's fine, right? Like those units I will deal it with like something else. I will have like, you know, a PBC or a drone to finish it up. So that's really the thought behind that.
So would you ever have a situation where, because obviously you want to try and pop a Rhino, should we say, you can't get out the 8 out of a Rhino and still charge and be able to shoot the other Rhino, because let's say it's behind a wall. Would you be willing to drive 12 up, for example, disembark the 3, use the 10-man to pop the Rhino, and then when the guys get out, for example, use Boil Blight to have the mortars, then all fire and pick up the unit inside? Is that like quite a common thing that you do?
Yeah, that's exactly the idea. Like most of the time you cannot reach the opponent with only walking, so you have to drive and then disembark, shoot, and indirect it. And then, for example, before against Chosen or against melee army, that's why you have the fight first. Because if there is like 2 units in the Rhino, you kill one, and then the other one is kind of stuck because they cannot charge you, because first they cannot move because Overwatch. So they cannot go charge something else. And secondly, if they charge you, they're just gonna probably die to melee, or like survive but not be enough to kill you. So that's like the idea.
Really interesting. I mean, the list in my head doesn't. I always imagined it played a very different way from how you've described. I always thought you kind of camped on the objectives, and then you just kind of like, I own this half of the board, I'm going to win, dictating maybe a couple of fixed and using the players not to call you score. And just when you come close, that's when I just pounce my whole army to such a big blow, you'll never come back from it. But that's not how it plays at all. I mean, it sounds a lot more surgical, and like Aiden kind of put. It sounds like you kind of almost, you see the opponent's army as like Russian dolls, and you sort of, you're trying to sort of crack the shell to get to the next shell, and eventually get to the sort of soft gooey bit inside that you can sort of mop up with the with the PBCs.
I mean, oh, sorry.
No. I was going to say, it sounds like what were you going to say there, Liam? Because
basically, the idea is like, it's mainly because I'm a team player. Like, winning is not enough. Like, doing the whole like, I'm gonna do like a castle, play Cleanse Homer, and in the end, like, I'm gonna be an interactive, and like, I'm gonna win by 3 points. That's mean nothing to me. So me, I mainly play tactical most of the time, or like Homer plus skill if they give any. And my idea is to really force them to interact. So like, the idea is not to put 20 OC on an objective. So they say, oh, I'm not gonna be able to deny that. I'm gonna focus on the other flank where it's weaker. Is to put like 2 drones on 2 objectives with a Rhino with 10 men, to force them to send something that's gonna kill the Plague Burst, to then kill those stuff, plus with the indirect, to like make gap in their DZ, to like be able to like really rush them. Like, I don't want to stay on my half of the board. I want to go in their DZ, try to pick up their home objective as soon as possible.
This is interesting because I imagine Dave was going to say the same. I always thought, because I'm not a teams player, I had my first ever teams event earlier this year. It's very fun, by the way. Really enjoyed it. But I thought Death Guard in teams would be more like a what I can't remember what you call them, the ones that kind of like try and hold the hard matchups like the draw. Yeah. But it sounds like you're actually trying to go for the big wins, really, which is quite interesting with Death Guard.
If I can, Liam, and just to add to that, if I can, when you talk about that, I'd be really interested to hear how you, going into that teams of the first time with Death Guard into teams, you expected it to go, and how did you find it? Did you find your list worked into any kind of opponent, or was there some stuff it was really, really good for and some stuff it didn't work for?
So just before you answer that, Liam, sorry, just want to add one thing here, just for the listeners at home, because I think we haven't actually explained why team scoring's different, and I think that's very important for the people listening to understand what Liam's saying. So teams is done on a differential where it's like between 0 and 20. So a win in teams, you don't just want to win like by 3 points, as Liam said before. You want to win by a huge margin, because the bigger the gulf, the more you score on the differential. So what Liam's saying is, you don't just want to win by like 3 points, you want to win by 20, 30, 40, and also hold the other person's score really low. So it's just sort of important, I think, just for the listeners at home to make that differential, just so to understand why teams is different and why Liam's talk about the different scoring differentials there. But sorry, if you can you remember what Dave's question was, Liam, or do you want him to reiterate?
Yeah. So Death Guard in team. So in team, you're trying to. I'm doing the pairing process, and Death Guard is really strong at that, because Death Guard has a lot of matchup that they can push really high, and then the rest of the field is really drawish. Like you're never gonna lose hard. So you have like 2 ways to play Death Guard in team. Is you could like give it to like a player that is more a defensive playstyle. They go in defense and try to like take any good army at you and trying to hold them to a draw. That's totally viable. But me in Team Belgium, I'm mostly a pusher. So like, I'm trying more to get like those easy win, like those orc matchup, Custodes, Ward Eater, all the like not shooting army, like more the melee army, and to push for a big win into those. So to give you context, I was in Poland this weekend. I played like a team event with Team Belgium where I was playing Death Guard, and I was doing the pairing, and so I managed to catch like 1 Custodes, 2 Orc, where I managed to like score 19, 20, 20 to like give a lot
Good one.
to give a lot of points to my team. So like it's not only about winning, it's like giving like those points to the team to make sure the team together win. Like, but yeah.
And Liam, do you find that the players, so those other factions that you mentioned, the Custodians, the Orcs, the World Eaters, do you find those players are increasingly feeling, oh no, it's Death Guard?
So that's funny because like, for example, I arrive at the table, my opponent knows he's gonna lose, so he tried to not play. But I mean that maybe I'm really good at making like trap to like, I'm gonna put stuff on objective. You either choose to commit and die, or you don't commit and let me score. But
commit and die, or don't commit and I win.
You should get that on a t-shirt. Commit or die.
but so, like,
so I was going to say, what do you actually use of your units to make them commit? Like, what are you putting out? Is it usually the drones, I'm guessing, that go out first, or is it the rhinos you use?
No, that's never the rhino. That's always the drone or the PBC.
Right.
Like,
cool.
I'm even putting PBC on objective in front. Like, for example, you play against zero melee, zero shooting, or like close to zero shooting, like no relevant shooting to kill tank. What I put is my Plague Burst in front, and I'm rushing my opponent with Plague Burst, and I'm making sure the Rhino is never getting charged by 2 units to make sure like they don't like kill a Rhino, pop the unit inside, or stuff like that. And like a lot of opponent will be there, will understand that like it's really hard to kill those Plague Bursts, and like, but they don't bring a lot to the table in the end. So they will be there, they will try to focus a flank or understand that like it's a trap, don't go for it. But like,
if they don't go for it, you're scoring.
They will score it, but not even that much. But those matchups are really easy for Death Guard. And like, an army that have no shooting is kind of cannot do anything against Death Guard. So that's those army that you try to catch in team. But yeah.
So how would you change if you got paired into an army with quite a decent amount of shooting, like a Space Marine sort of list with, some gladiators? So how would that change how you play? That's
where you're gonna start to play those really defensively game, where like first you're gonna, because my list have 9 vehicle, 3 Plague Burst, 2 drone, 3 Rhino, and 1 Destructor Predator. I don't know if we talk about that one when I talk about this.
Yeah.
Because that unit is really good at shooting infantry and
it's amazing.
So you have 9 vehicle and 6 character because you have Typhus as well. So like you either look at what your opponent's gonna take. If they take like Bring It Down Assassination and stuff like against those shooting army, you're gonna like close the game. Like that, the opposite, as I was talking before, is you put the PBC, you make sure you have no gap in the DZ, screening everything, staying behind wall and waiting to see if he come or not. You can also like even do like some rapid ingress play with Typhus to like go on an objective to make it sticky and then leave the objective, stuff like that. But yeah, it's where you start to play really defensive and go for like those little win, 10-10 sort of thing, stuff like that.
So you can even like what might be considered a bad matchup to the archetype, the list is sort of dynamic enough that it can flex into a different play style and you can still get points out of it. Hence why we talked about before, where I had the error and I thought about the Plague Marines stand on points and do the fight first. That's not the intention, but you still have the option to do that if the matchup sort of demands it.
Yeah, exactly. Because even like a shooting army, like they still need to respect the fact you can table them really quickly. Because like Death Guard do a crazy amount of damage in short range. So if you don't commit, they probably won't commit. So you end up in a dead situation where nothing happened, which in team is not a problem.
Yeah, you don't mind that, yeah.
Because you're saying, I say it's gonna be a 10-10. I'm bringing the 10-10 to my team. I did like my
you
opponent
took that
didn't
bad matchup away.
Like voila. In single, you need to find the win, but by doing those kind of gameplay, maybe you're gonna force your opponent to do a mistake. Because for example, if you play tactical, your opponent cannot really predict what the final score is gonna be, and do like those kind of stuff where, okay, I calculate if I do nothing, I win by 1 point, because they don't really know what card you're gonna draw. So like they say, okay, I need to maybe start to commit a bit, and when they commit, you can punish them really hard.
So here's a question, because obviously you are giving up Nurglings because you're not taking demons. Do you ever worry about tactical because you've not got stuff like Nurglings and cheap stuff like that, or do you find like the drones and stuff are okay enough to play the midfield and the 5-man Plague Marines kind of do that job for you? Like, do you ever feel like you miss the Nurglings, or do you feel still pretty confident?
So I have the cultists. I have the 10 cultists, which give a similar role. Like they scout, they don't pregame, they don't infiltrate. So like for all the secondary that are Ariadina and Homer, I can always do that with the cultists in the early game. In the later turn, I can do it with a drone, a Rhine, or whatever. Like one of my drone will always be ready to do investigate, and then I give up on behinds. I have Typhus, but even with Nurgling, most of the time behind is not easy to achieve in the early turn.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at the 16 card, there is like obviously capturing the outpost is not going to be easy, but most of the time, all the rest you're going to be able, if you do think about investigate by putting a drone within 19 of a corner, like you're going to be able to do it, or even maybe giving up the plague bird that is in your backline. He can give up to shoot his plague bird scroller, the plague bird launcher once per game, maybe to do investigate. But like all the cleans and killing stuff, taking objective back, tempting target, sometimes it's tricky, but the way I play it's often really fine because I really want to be close to every objective on the table, so I'm always going to be ready to go on one objective or not. Like Storm of Style can be something tricky if your opponent decide to not commit, but like you're going to do it. But so in the end, there is quite not that many cards that you're not being able, that you don't need Nurgling for a lot of cards in the end.
Yeah, I think the only one that's essential, because we actually had a bit of a chat about this in our chat today when we're talking about some list ideas we had. I think the only one that is a niche situation is Engage on some missions. I think that's the only one where Nurglings might be the only unit in the Death Guard book that can score it. But it's a niche thing, and you also have to deploy the Nurglings probably further forward than you want them, which could be a slingshot charge for some slow armies like Custodes or something. So it's as much as they open something up, I think they also open up some negatives as well as positives. But if you could have the option to put them in, would you put them in? Or would you just not bother at this point?
I had the option, I just didn't bother because the problem with Nurgling is that they don't have OC, so that doesn't really work in the way I want. Because like you have 3 Nurgling on an objective, as an opponent you're there, okay, I'm just gonna let them. Where if I put cultists on it, you will have to commit. Also, cultists give up Contagion, which like in the early game, having able pre-game move into middle ruin, then moving 6 plus advancing, giving within 6 on turn to a Contagion, might allow you to shoot with PBC a unit you want to kill. So all of that is a bit better, I think.
There is actually another thing that the Nurglings lead into, actually, which was something I was also going to ask, because the Nurglings, of course, have the benefit of having the -1 to hit aura in combat, which leads us, what contagions do you take? Does the list always take -1 to the opponent's armor save, or do you actually mix it up, and what's the thinking behind those decisions?
So my thought process is basically, do I need -1 save for any reason? Like, there is any save to reduce? Yes, I take -1 save. If I play against only Involve, I'm going to take -1 to it because obviously.
Yeah. My first question is always, how many Involves have you got in this list? And
but sometimes it's like, for example, I play against Orc and I always take -1 save, and all my opponents are there. Why do you take not -1 to hit? I have Wag, I'm there. But I want all my weapon in my army to do damage to you, and like when you have -1 save, even melee of a rhino is gonna kill a boss or something, or like bolter from a rhino is gonna kill stuff. So like that gives just more damage to all your army.
It just takes away the opportunity for someone to spike 6s and 5-ups, just saying no, you don't get a save.
Exactly. And most of the time, -1 to hit, the -1 ballistic skill or weapon skill doesn't matter that much. Like Orc, if they want to kill you, they will find a way to reach you anyway and kill you, even if you do the -2 hit tricks with the Nurgling. And like most of the shooting army can just stay outside of contagion range anyway and shoot you to death anyway. So like
interesting.
I think the only list it kind of makes sense into is something like Harlequins, where there's just a default save,
demons.
or demons, and you just go, well, I can't change that anyway. So
exactly, it's the only matchup I think I take -1 ballistic skills. And maybe GSC.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, Liam, just before we kind of move on to something else, I'd be interested to talk about deployment as well. So when you talk about things like getting ready to put PPCs out onto points or to move the rhinos, kind of getting ready to get them driving fast up to deploy, do you deploy quite aggressively from a Death Guard perspective?
Yes, but you need to think that on the BTC, the way maps work is that nothing is really hiding. But to take a line of sight, you have to commit in the midfield and you have to go closer to me. So like, I'm always going to deploy in a way that you can see me. That's like, if you want to see me, you will, but I will be ready to take the revenge kill. So yeah, I will always deploy like close to the line, depending on what I face, obviously. But I will always, like, my first thinking when I go in a team is how aggressive I can be deployed while not being in a bad situation. So I will always try to deploy as aggressively as I can while not giving something for free, letting my opponent charge on turn 1, or like getting too easy line of sight from like 40 inches away where I cannot do anything, stuff like that. So yeah, if I can deploy on the line and be safe, I will always deploy on the line and be safe.
No, it's really interesting that. I mean, I guess because the teams that we play locally is the Northern Warlords with Matt Robinson, the Team England guy. So they have WTC scenery at those ones. It's proper, like, it's the same you play on at Worlds, I guess, for the tables are sort of set. So I've played on that terrain set. And I know what you mean. You can't really hide stuff. You kind of have to sort of minimise the lines. So you kind of, I put it here and you can't, this half of the board can't see, but this half can. So you kind of have to sort of make that. So it's interesting that you talk about how aggressive you can get away with deploying on those boards and how sort of like, I suppose, how thought out the game is in that sense. I mean, I'm trying to think what are the matchups that you think are bad for Death Guard? Is there anything in teams or perhaps if it's not an actual faction, like a list archetype where you would really try and avoid that pairing or?
So, I don't like Astra Militarum because indirect is annoying, they can slow me. But on the opposite, it's like at worst I get an 8 and Astra Militarum is a problem in team. So it's like not the bad thing for the team if I get Astra Militarum and go with like a little loss. But in single, I think it's a bad pairing overall because like it's in the hand of the Astra Militarum to beat you, I feel. So that pairing is not quite easy. Like, I have a bit of the same, like, some scenario for hypercrypt, like double monolith or something, can be like a bit trickier, like you're close to a draw, but like in single, that draw can, like, go 2 points for the hypercrypt or 2 points for the Death Guard, depending on, like, who go first or second, because you want to go second, but if you go first, it's a bit annoying against Necron, hypercrypt. Depending on the scenario, the terrain and stuff, those matchups can be a bit tricky. And then like really, really hard shooting army, like maybe like Iron Storm full Gladiator, or even maybe Toe on some terrain / mission again is gonna be a bit tricky, but not. I still think I can win those, but I also think I can lose those quite easily.
Yeah, so it's a lot more of a coin flip than perhaps some of the matchups then.
Yeah, like for example against Orc, stuff like that, I know I'm not gonna lose. Like I played that game 5 or 6 times. I know every inside of that matchup, so I know like, okay, I'm ready. Like that's gonna happen at one point. I'm not surprised. Like everything is planned. But like those matchups where it's more shooting, it's a bit less predictable, I find out.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask, and it's probably a question a lot of people are going to be thinking, is what's your opinions, regardless of you running him or not, on Mortarion?
So, I really like when on the table it's chaotic. Like there is a unit everywhere. Like it's really hard to understand what fight is gonna actually matter for the purpose of winning the game. And like Mortarion push you to play more in a bubble around him to try to be more damage. So it's not my play style, and I don't like it. But I get it. It might be good. Mortarion is cheap enough where it's like not too much of an investment, but I don't like it overall.
I've been finding the same sort of thing. So like, I'm happy to have Mortarion when I come across like Catans and stuff, because ignoring half damage is really nice. Ignoring all Custodies defense is nice. But at the same time, I've found I'm not very good at like car parking lots, and trying to get everyone around Mortarion at all times is really limiting in like how you can play and get around the table. And I've been making like mistakes because I can't just be where I need to be. And I'm starting to think that although he's really good in those matchups, I think we can beat Custodies anyway without Mortarion.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Flamers are just bonkers and just rip them to shreds. But my main concern is Catan. So how do you find Catan and like Wraith and stuff like that without Mortarion? Because obviously half damage is quite big, but I'm going to assume you've probably planned to face Catan.
So Wraith is a lot easier than Catan first, because they are infantry, so that proc every rules about winning them on tools. So that's like, Wraith are not that hard to kill. Catan is more of a tricky, because even though I can kill them, often I'm gonna be in a situation where it's not worth killing them. So it's really hard to say. Like I didn't play that matchup that many times, but what I find out is that even though like double grenade plus typhus plus a plague marine unit might kill them, it might not. So like I'm more around like I just gonna try to let that Catan live, like depending how many Catan it is. If it's like 4 Catan, obviously there is only Catan, you're gonna try to kill.
There's only Catan.
Yeah. The sandwich is 100% Catan.
You're gonna have to kill them. But if you play a more balanced list, I would like worry about Catan after killing all the rest. And Catan actually don't win game that much. It's more all the rest that win game. So like the Catan will help them winning, but if I focus the rest, it's okay. And like, if I always make sure they won't, like, if they only have like Hyper Crypt is like one of the most classic Catan build, I wanna say. So like if they only try 9 charge, like basically if they don't get to charge something, the shooting is not relevant enough to matter that much for the game, where like all the rest is like I will always prefer killing a monolith than a Catan, for example.
Yeah,
that makes good sense. I think
are there units that that obviously you have your list and it's built for, like say, winning in teams. Are there models though that you're like, or units you would be like, if it didn't matter, I would like to take that?
What do you mean? So
do you have favorite Death Guard units that you don't use?
I mean, no. I always preferred Rhino and Plague Marine for like a long time. Back in 9th, I played Plague Marine and Rhino, so like I'm happy to play that unit. Yeah. And I always kind of dislike Terminator anyway. So like, because 4-inch models, it's not really my gameplay.
Yeah.
I really like, even though I see that like Rapid Ingress Terminator is okay, still like so no, I'm happy with my list right now. Like I miss my Contemptor Volkite, but
don't we all miss him?
So good.
But
God, could you imagine triple Volkite Contemptors with Mortarion standing in the middle now?
So talking about models you miss then, Liam, because I know you mentioned you've dropped the Knights because someone else on the team's running Chaos Knights, so you've kind of dropped them for that reason. Yeah. If you could bring them back in, say for singles, for example, is that something you would consider, or do you think at this point, with the points changes, they're just not that viable anymore?
So actually, when I start writing that list, we were running Chaos Knight, so that was kind of true. But we stopped running them, so I could have bring them, but I still decided to not bring them because like for the price of the Chaos Knight, I have like 3 or 4 units. So I'm there. It's fine. I'm missing them, but it's okay. I always also having like more Contagions threat and stuff. It's kind of cool. So I mean, they are good. I didn't miss them. Maybe if I play with them, I'm going to say, yeah, I want them again. But for the moment, I'm fine without it.
Now, Liam, do you like having played Marines and Death? We all did play Death Guard 9th into 10th. Do you like the new kind of debilitating Death Guard versus the old tough Death Guard? What's your view?
So I really don't like as a gameplay being resilient because I always feel like you just give your opponent the chance to kill you because sometimes you're going to face something that just kill you or an opponent that's going to find a way to kill you. So I prefer being like deadly killing stuff than being resilient. So yeah, 100%. Like I never like being resilient Death Guard. I always wanted to be like punchy, shooting Death Guard.
Yeah, I've always said the problem with the problem with having like resilience and toughness is like your identity as an army is either you're too tough and the games are just miserable because you just don't die, or the meta goes past your point of toughness and you die anyway and you have nothing else going for you, so you just die.
Yeah, like right now, Death Guard are resilient more about the number of units they can bring to a table, not really by the profile, which are tough, don't get me wrong, but like really whatever, a Plague Marine's not gonna survive anything, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. What we do is damage. Like Death Guard damage is absurd in Contagion range, and like I had a GT recently. Blood Angels player tried to rush me down turn 1 and I picked up 1,400 points in one turn. It's just like don't come near Death Guard.
Yeah, exactly.
No. But I've got a few questions just from only 1 or 2 from the patrons or this YouTube members. One fellow wants to know how many opponents end up taking assassination and bring it down against you, because obviously you have a lot of characters, a lot of vehicles, and do they take one or both, and how does it go for them if they do take it?
So I think you should never take both, because you just give me the option of not playing the game and beat you anyway, because I'm just gonna castle, and if you come near me you're dead, so you're not gonna find those one. So taking one of the two plus Homer is a fine strategy, but you really need to think about your army wide. Most of the time actually taking assassination about bring it down seem better, because bring it down is quite easy for me to like, the 3 plague bursts you probably don't get it. When I have empty rhino, you're not gonna kill empty rhino in the late game because you have some stuff more important. You will get the drone for sure. The predator you might not get it. So it's really a question of how do you feel you're gonna kill it, but it's way more easy to kill the character actually. So like killing a 10-man, you already have 8. You might kill the second one and get 8 or 2. So playing one of 2 is okay. But most of the time, actually, my opponent even don't bother taking one. Like, what game? So I often see tactical playing against me.
Do you almost kind of want people to take those fixed secondaries because you can kind of control them? Does that then open up it for you to sort of like bring player skill into the sort of equation and, like you say, sort of like be able to sort of kill count, so you know that they can only kill this many vehicles, and you know, so you can kind of sort of control the game a bit more. You know, is that something that you kind of want people to do when they play against you?
Yeah, exactly. Like if they bring it down in assassination, I'm gonna bunker, count the game, and in single at least. In team, nice. It might be a good idea sometime to prevent me from pushing you too hard, but it actually don't even really work, I find out.
Yeah.
So in teams, it might bring it close to a draw, which is like a 10-10 sort of score, so it kind of might force you, like you say, you've got to either win big and sort of be so dominant that they don't have anything left to kill you, or you've got to sort of, like you say, sort of turtle up a bit and make them come to you.
Exactly.
So, just before Aiden has one more, before we finish the paper, I did have one thing, because we've been a big fan of the Predator on our channel for a while, and you've mentioned it a couple of times. I wanted to ask which one do you run and what's the loadout, because I think this is something that it's a model that's near and dear to us. Yeah, that's it.
So, I'm running the Destructor with Heavy Bolt. Because the Heavy Bolt are AP1 base, AP2 against infantry, AP3 if they're in contagion range, AP4 if you spend the strat. That's kind of absurd for killing.
Sustained, lethal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so is the autocannon. And like, even like the bolter, the plague bolter on it is like AP1, and then AP2 in contagion range. That's like,
it gets stupid.
So there is like, I like that one because I just run one, so it's just gonna like come to reserve strat and deal with an infantry unit. I could, like, if you don't run enough anti-tank, I could see running multiple destructor with last cannon instead of the heavy bolt.
Yes.
But like the annihilator is quite more because you only get one last cannon. I always feel like the 4 autocannon will do more because with -1 toughness and -1 save, like even against a big tank, it's gonna be T10 goes to 9, 3 up save goes to 4, so it's okay.
Yeah. That's fair. So just the last question then before we let you get off, because I understand it's quite late over there, and you've, like you say, you've just got back from Poland because he lives in Belgium, not Poland,
which is not.
I've never lived this down. I'm
just clarifying, not in Poland. So the last question is, and you've kind of already answered it. Do you prefer fixed or tactical, and why? And if you were to take fixed, what would it have to be that would force you to take fixed? Like, would it be like going against Tower, which are obviously like 20 easy, bring it down, etc.?
So, I prefer tactical for the CP. Generally, like, they're getting a bit of CP is cool. Also, like, not having to do too many action because we will talk to that, but like going fix cleanse Homer is 3 action per turn. It's way too many because all my units is gonna do damage. Even my Rhino shooting you, charging you, tank shocking you. So, like, I'm gonna use every single one of my units to try to kill you. So it's really annoying me when I have to drop one of those units to do an action. I will do it when I'm tactical because I have to do it once, but more than that is a bit too much.
Yeah.
The only word I would take fix is like, first if they give 2 easy kill secondary, like if I have to table you to kill 2 score points, I'm happy with that, so I'm gonna take assassination, bring it down, or voila. Or
so like Imperial Knight, you bring it down, for example.
Or sometime if there is the table, how the table work, I find on doing Homer is okay. So I will just do like Homer in the middle for the 2-3 first turn, and then Typhus gonna go in there dizzy, do Homer in there dizzy because he can still do Mortal Wound and do Homer.
Yeah.
So I would go Homer plus kill, but I would never go double action.
That's fair. That's fair. Right. Well, in considering how late it is for you over there, and you've obviously just got back from an event, I don't want to keep you on too long. We obviously do massively appreciate you coming on, especially if you've just gotten back from an event. We do really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
No worry.
But I think at this point we'll probably start to wrap it up if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. So I suppose, Liam, is there anything that you want to add? Anything that you any thoughts you've had on Death Guard as a whole, or anything that you want to sort of add just as a general topic? Maybe it's not even about Death Guard. Anything that you just sort of want to sort of voice or feel about the game at the moment?
I think Death Guard is actually quite good in the meta. I don't know what we were thinking, but it's probably one of the top 3 army in the game right now.
Yeah, boy.
In my opinion, it's maybe a hot take, but after this weekend, I was seeing all my matrices and stuff. Death Guard really good.
Really cool. Was there any shout-outs you'd like to give to your team or anything like that?
I think so. I'm the captain of Team Belgium. You can follow us on Facebook, I guess. Team Belgium 40k, and also I'm in Team Ignite in UK more.
Awesome, Liam. And Liam, do you have any Instagram or anything you want to shout out for anyone to follow you on if they want to see more of you?
No, I'm not doing. No, Team Belgium will probably be the stuff to follow them.
Nice,
fantastic. And are you over in the UK anytime soon, Liam? Any events you've got coming up?
I go to Six Nations in Ireland, but that's an invitational, so I guess. But I go to Birmingham, the Glasshammer event.
Nice.
Excellent.
I think that would be my next one.
Oh, we'll look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to attend that one with a friend as well, so I'll have to buy you a beer.
Thanks.
But yeah, I think that's it then, unless there's anything you guys want to add. I don't know if Aiden, do you want to, or Dave, do you want to sign us out?
Yeah, look, just going to say thanks very much, Liam, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and also as our first of our big guests for 4K subs on our channel. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on Death Guard, giving us an insight into teams, and telling Will where Belgium is.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for coming on, mate. And honestly, surprised at some the way I thought you played teams, because I've never seen you actually play it, has very much changed for how I'm going to approach my next event. So I'm going to see how that goes. Hopefully do you proud on that one. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your tactics and knowledge and your thoughts on the Death Guard faction with us, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to you guys for inviting me. It's always cool to get enriched by people.
I think you've enriched us, mate, but yeah, I certainly feel a lot richer anyway. But thanks again, Liam. It has been you've been a great guest, and as I say, anytime you have a big win with Death Guard, or you want to sort of come on and talk some more about the faction, we'd love to get you on again in the future as well. But I suppose, guests like, subscribe, join us on Discord, and Aiden, Dave, do you have anything you want to plug? Perhaps begin with a V.
I'll let Dave take this one.
No, just as always, we always do, just to close out. I think, as we talked about before, both Aiden and I play for Vanguard Tactics. The academy for those guys is open at the moment. I think they've got some last spots left. So if anyone is interested in doing it, head on over to those guys. There's a link in the description, plus a referral link from us. Apart from that, I think Aiden, unless you want anything more to it, just want to say thanks again, Liam, and
yeah, thanks for coming on. And again, if you're after any gaming aids, check out Saltire Games in the link, get a discount, support the channel, all that good stuff. But thank you very much, Liam. We shall love you and leave you for now. And to everyone listening, stay rotten, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See you later, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye.